Hello everybody, it's Andy Smith with your weekly book look on this fine Tuesday morning. 33-year veteran of the comic book industry. Thank you for joining me. Like, subscribe, and share. And all right, let's get on with it. Art and illustration techniques, 25 step-by-step demonstrations using 8 mediums. This is an older book, as you can tell, by Harry Borgman. I got it used, I think at a used bookstore, at a cheap price. And I love this type of illustration. Now, real quick, this isn't part of the book look, but lifestyle illustration of the 60s. I love this style of illustration here. This book has many different artists in it. You can look at this and see that Bill Sienkiewicz was influenced by some of this work. Bernard Fuchs, Bob Peak, great illustrators like that. In fact, Bernie Fuchs right here, this one right here. So this book kind of goes into techniques like that. So let's dive in, shall we? I believe this actually on the cover is marker with alcohol on a certain type of vellum paper. All right, let's do this. When did Watson Guptill, they've been doing books like this forever. They did my How to Draw book. And this book came out in 1979, first printing. So there you go. Table of contents, of course, little introduction. It's a shame that illustrators aren't used as much as they used to be. Developing an illustration. A lot of this book is in black and white, but there is a color section. So these are like thumbnails and such, working up to an illustration. This is really a tight comp that you would show to an art director to get approval on. And then you work it up, and he goes into the different techniques he's using and such. And then this is the tight comp bigger, which I just love. Let's see. This color comprehensive layout was done the same size as the final art, 15 by 17.5. It's rendered with markers on high quality layout paper. The thin lines were drawn with a Pilot Fine Liner Ultra Pen, which I believe Gil Kane used to ink with. I added that. The sketch was again presented to the client, hopefully for final approval. See, I wish this was in full color. Unfortunately not. Here's the new sketch with corrections. So they did have some corrections they wanted done to it. Then he goes into how he actually did it. So step 1, finally had the go-ahead. My deadline is 1 week, which is fairly good since an illustrator often will have only a couple days to paint an ad. With all my reference material in view, I start by doing a very, very accurate drawing with 2H graphite pencil on tracing paper. When finished, I transfer the drawing to illustration board by using a graphite tracing sheet. Those are sheets of paper that are just basically all graphite, and when you draw on top of it, the graphite adheres to the paper below. Another way to do it is just take your tracing paper, take a side of a pencil, and just scribble all over it. To do it, or an opaque projector. Let's see. So he did that. Rather than use a black for the lines, I feel dark gray would look better, so I use India ink diluted with a little water. This is where I really wish this was in color. He adds the darkest areas throughout the illustration using ivory black designer colors. Then he goes in, the creative director wanted the ad to have a fresh, bright feeling. Dyes and watercolor are the obvious choices since the illustration will be rendered with clean, bright washes of color. I decided to paint the rocket launching segment first since it seems to be the most difficult part. A few drops of Dr. Martin dyes, cadmium yellow, persimmon, and then orange and olive, adding a little Higgins water-soluble black ink for the darker tones. And he just goes into his process. Like I said, I really wish this was in color. He just talks about continuing. He gets into using opaque designer colors He uses those to finish up the refinery in the Mirage jet aircraft. And here's the final ad, obviously not printed in this country, but God, I wish this was in color. It might be in color in back of the book. I'm sorry, I didn't flip through the book first. So here he goes into art techniques, talking about different techniques with pencils, different type of pencils to use. Here he shows different techniques with the different type of pencils and such. Graphite pencil on smooth Bristol board. God, this is such a lost art. It's a shame because, you know, I think there's always going to be illustrators, but honestly, after this generation that I think I'm a part of goes bye-bye, let's say 20 to 30 years, there's not going to be many that do this stuff by hand anymore, which is just sad. Charcoal pencil on regular surface Bristol board. Stabilo pencil on high finish Bristol board. I just love this illustrative technique. I just think it's just so freaking cool. Talking about ink line. I love this. If you just looked at this, these are all the tools that inkers and comics use. I just think that's freaking fantastic. He's got the brushes, the quill, pen tips, different types of ink. And this is cool. He shows the different marks and stuff you can make. And, you know, you look at this and you look at what Bill Sienkiewicz was doing on Moon Knight and his pen and ink work in the 80s, and you just see a lot of this in it. And this is a loose ink line on smooth Bristol. Brushwork on watercolor paper. I mean, you look at like this. Well, this whole drawing, for instance, you could imagine being in something that Bill Sienkiewicz did. That type of style. And then this is just crazy. Crosshatch pen drawing. I mean, wow. Ink tone, so that's diluting ink with water for gray washes. You can see the different experimentations here he did. Ink wash over line drawing on rough watercolor board. And then ink tone wash drawing. Now, I really like this just from the simplicity of it. Like, you look at it and your eye captures everything going on. It's a marketplace, kind of busy. But, you know, if you really look at it, there's not a lot of details, small details, but it gets the point across. I think that's cool. Ink washes with water-soluble ink. Markers. I mean, this guy didn't even know. Just imagine if, I don't know if Harry Borgman is still around, but if he is, he would be like, holy crap, look at all the type of markers that are out there these days. These, you know, Copics and stuff, and then the Copic knockoffs, which are cheaper. I mean, guys, when I went to art school, we had Chart Pack markers. Wish this was in color. Watson Guptill, God, why would you print a book that's all color stuff in black and white? And this is just showing on different types of paper and stuff, the different effects you can get. Markers on tracing paper. You think tracing paper, but yeah, totally. And look at this. This has a watercolor effect to it, which I just think is so cool. A few last minute highlights are put on the face with a flesh marker. Because when you work on tracing paper, when you go over top of a marker, it pulls it up some, depending on how you do it. So, just really cool. Oh, yep, here we go. So you got to see the color of this on the cover. This is marker on tracing paper, guys. Let's see, here we go, more steps. And then he says, using a rag dampened with Bestine, a rubber cement thinner, I wipe over the crowd until the color dissolves a little, like right up in here. The smeared effect creates a feeling of motion. That is what I'm talking about. I love that. And like I said, we'll just go back real quick. I wish this was in the book, not cropped, but you could almost think that was a watercolor technique, but that is marker. You can see up in this corner, he wiped it away with that Bestine alcohol stuff that's a cleaner, and it pulls up the marker. So markers on smooth board. I mean, I'll be a broken record. I wish this book was in color, but at least you can see the tonal aspects of it, which is good for full color to see if your tones work. And of course, watercolor. I'm sure he touches on dyes because those are dyes in the bottle, and probably opaque gouache, like that stuff. Different effects, different paper. Watercolor paper, portrait. Watercolor on hot press illustration board. Hot press. And then rough watercolor paper. Oh, nope, he does have a separate chapter on designer colors, which is gouache. Gouache is, you mix it with water and you can do it transparent. And once it dries, you can go over top of it opaquely with gouache, which is cool. Rough watercolor board. There's this rough for these cowboys, and then that's his thumbnail with the tonal values, and you can see it blocked in here in pencil. And he's basically washing over it to lay down a foundation. I really wish this was in color because this is one of my favorites in here. You can see he's getting opaque over top of it. This is 12 by 14. And that was it. So that is, I believe, the final. And I love this. Designer colors on illustration board. That's the comprehensive sketch. And he's getting it. I don't think that's the final. Nope, here we go. So you can see the final illustration here. And that was using gouache. And then acrylic, of course. I don't think he talks about oil. That's not really the best to use on deadlines for advertising. Love this blurred out effect, Omaha Beach, Normandy. That's just really cool. Acrylic paint on canvas. Aaron Lopresti knows about all that with Kit Carter. He did a full poster, movie poster painting, which came out beautiful. I ordered one. So this is acrylic here. I wish this area was bigger so you could see the details that he did. But I just think this came out beautiful. Once again, the tones really work. Acrylic on canvas, a figure study. Well, hello there. And then he talks about mixed media, which, I mean, a lot of people do that. Watercolor and acrylic, watercolor and gouache. Colored pencil, marker, and watercolor. So many ways to mix stuff together. This is designer colors, so that's gouache, and colored pencils. This, I think, is cool. When you see the final, even though it's in black and white, he really focused in on this area. Let me just peek ahead. Yep, this is the final. I love the technique he did here with this square. I mean, I would have looked there regardless in the illustration with his composition, but focusing it like that, I think that's just a very cool effect. I love the way he did these guys in the foreground. Here he's using ink line and designer colors. Again, kudos to him for drawing this biplane. Oof. Here's the actual ink line drawing that was used for the final full color illustration. That is, I wish that was blown up bigger so you can see the detail in it. That I just don't think is a great representation of the final illustration, unfortunately. Markers, dyes, designer colors on cold press board. So really mixing it up here. Part 3, color section. Finally getting to some color. Oh, okay, maybe he does go through these initial ones. So this is the ad that he was doing. And he did this ad, I believe it was with, I already forgot. These sketches were done in marker, but the ad, so it's weird. They repeated stuff. So you can see this is the final printed ad. So I'm just trying to read here. Use some India ink. I remember saying you did it with a 2H pencil first. I'd have to go back to the color tones were added with washes of watercolor and dyes. I think this is phenomenal, guys. I mean, this, you might look at that and go, oh, it's so old. But I love it. I love ads like this. Okay, cool. We get to see the finals. This is the final drawing of the marker on tracing paper. I mean, even this day, I'm pretty good at looking at stuff and figuring out what it was done with. But if I just saw this, maybe not the bottom because you can see the marker strokes, but if it was cropped in, I might think it was watercolor. I love how he pulled out highlights and stuff using some of the thinner, the Bestine thinner, to pull out highlights from the tracing paper. Same here, on tracing paper. I mean, I would think the tracing paper wrinkled up some. So this is good. He does show the finish pieces here in color. I mean, boy, I just think in 1979, how cheap. I mean, how expensive was printing a full color book to where they're like, show the process steps in black and white. We'll just show the finished pieces in the end. Here you go. I love this. The warm and the cool colors. Like I said, I love the opaqueness to pull out the highlights on the horse and the figures and stuff. I just think that is gorgeous. This one done with gouache as well. I really like. Oh yeah, here we go. Yeah, acrylic on canvas. I still wish these guys were bigger so you could see it more, but I can see that earth really nicely and how the clouds are brushed in. You see the canvas texture below it. He used some colored pencil for these straight lines on the satellite. This is just great right in here. Just really, really love it. And I think this works so much better in full color. The black and white tonal that they showed earlier really didn't do much for me, but I think in color that works really nice. Some more examples, of course. Oh yeah, this is a great one. Acrylic on canvas. You just really get a nice feeling of motion here. Ah, yeah, here you go. Designer colors, which is gouache, and color pencils. Mixing mediums can be very interesting, but it does not have to be limited to paint. Using colored pencils with paint can be a fascinating combination that offers great possibilities for experimentation. In this painting, I start out by drawing the rider, horse, and foreground figures. Then I add designer colors washes over the whole picture. Over this, I work with more of the colored pencils, the white square highlighting. The rider is masked off with Scotch magic tape. Wow. I use Eagle Prismacolor pencils, but there are other fine brands available. There are color pencils that will dissolve when water is washed over the pencil tone. Yes. That is just so freaking cool. I love this cowboy here and the highlights painted on again. Oh, there we go. So you can see, at least I can, the ink line and then the color over top of it. Markers, paint, and dyes. Really cool. So like you look at this and you can kind of get, you know, you look at Bill Sienkiewicz's painted graphic novels and stuff, Daredevil or Elektra, and you see stuff like this in it. Let's see, additional mixed media, and these are some paperback covers that he painted with designer colors and acrylic. Dracula Returns. Very cool. Part 4, additional hints. Oh. Drawing aids, correcting drawings and illustrations. The opaque projector, that's projector, so if you don't want to, it's a easy way back then to transfer stuff to your illustration board. There he's talking about French curves, ellipticals for ellipses, tracing sheet, transferred illustrations, like I was talking about how you do that, to create your own transfer sheet with graphite. So good stuff. And then getting ideas, which is cool. Developing yourself as an artist. And then the index. That's it. And Harry Borgman was born in Detroit, Michigan, and worked for many years in that city. Back when Detroit was probably booming, his work encompassing a wide range of mediums from ink line drawings to full-color illustrations has appeared in books, advertisements, and magazines. Work experience has included positions at Campbell Wald Company as art director. As art director for Chevrolet National Magazine, advertising, art supervisor, tons of stuff. He received a Michigan Watercolor Society Award. He's been in lots of art shows. Let's see, and this goes back from 79. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if this guy was in his, let's say 40 in 1979, that's 45 years ago. He's 85. Hopefully he's still with us, but you never know. There you go. Different type of book look this time around. Not really comic book related, but when I was in the Kubert school, a book like this would turn me off because there are no superheroes in it because I was ignorant. But I would love to have had a teacher that taught techniques like this in the Kubert school, because I think, you know, artists like Phil Noto, who's a great traditional painter, Bill Sienkiewicz, just so many others, employ techniques like this in their work. So thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, and share. Hey guys, thank you for joining me on the book look. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I love old school art techniques like that. So thanks again. Like, subscribe, and share. Next week book look is going to be a twofer. It's a twofer because you can see thin. I'll be showing 8-eye Granoff illustrations. Nice little sketchbook, and there's like a little tutorial in here too. So I'll be showing that sketchbook, and then this is one of the first sketchbooks I got back in the day. The Art of John Buscema, Sal Q Productions. Not that thick. Great wraparound cover right there, and which was hand painted, and nice interview with John. So these are the two for next week, and of course, KOR-DRATH, The Awakening is live on Indiegogo. If you're fans of Conan, Game of Thrones, Dungeons and Dragons, high adventure fantasy, you are going to love KOR-DRATH, The Awakening. Go check it out. Link in the description below. And of course, KOR-DRATH, The Christmas Miracle is a very lighthearted children's book Dennis and I are doing that will be out in time for the holidays. The link is in the description below for that as well. Thank you, everybody. See you next week. Bye-bye.